Yo, yo, yo. Let me see if this actually changes up a little bit. Yo, I wonder if you guys can hear me better now or now. Let's try this one and see. Give me 1 second here. Yo, yo, yo. Yo, I wonder if you guys can hear me better now or now. Let's try this one and see. Give me 1 second. I really think this one worked better. Let's see here. I really think this one worked better. Let's see here. Okay, so we'll stick with this one for now, currently. But this is going to be the trade review for NQ Monday, January 12th, 2026. And, obviously, when we came into the markets today, what we wanted to see was we'll kind of go over the overview of what we wanted to see. And so, what we wanted to see on NQ was higher pricing. We wanted to see that price from higher time frame perspective reach up and then go for those 25,900s. And the way that it was setting up pre New York was really awesome because if you look at the overnight demand, it was set right in here, I believe, right? So this area was pretty obvious what they wanted to do. And so today, I would say this for me is like something that me and Javante talk about a lot is playing your trade and plan your trade and trade your plan, right? And so sometimes as traders, we get caught up. It's just part of the game, right? And I kind of got caught up today because of how they rallied so quickly right there at the first 5 minute candle. I mean, if you look at that first 15 5 minute candle, that's 100 handles right out the gate, right? And so there's lots of different things you can do in this situation. You don't want to obviously do what I did and was trying to look for specific shorts that weren't even in an area, right, for the 1 hour at that time. When you look at the location, as I just went back over the film and just kind of seeing, some of the things that I was doing, I was like, oh, damn, I wasn't even in the location. There wasn't a draw on liquidity. So there's a lot of different things. But the main focus I just wanted to look at today, just on the trade review, like my trade reviews are pretty crazy personally. I like to write out, multiple things. So I'm going to be bringing up the uh, documents here soon so that you guys can, use those. They'll be released into the Discord and whatnot. And just how we break down the days. So, like, what things we improved upon, what mistakes and missed opportunities that we have, what are some things that we learned that day, what are some changes you want to make from today going into tomorrow, right? Because a lot of times we will not really think too much about that, and then the next day, you could potentially make the same mistake. And so, one of my main goals is to focus on uh, cleaning up the mistakes, right? It's not always going to be, um, super clean. But to just kind of keep it short and sweet here tonight, I would say here, we looked at that 4 hour area, so I'll pull this over here just really quickly. Let me pull this one. Let's pull this one over. So we looked at this area here. I just want to make sure it's loading. We looked at this area here, daily, 4 hour, and then the 1 hour, and we were anticipating a couple things. One of the things that I said was that if price on that 4 hour could hold inside this candle here, so inside this demand area and continue up, then we were going to see more upside. And then if you look at the overnight price, right, so that far right screen, if you look at that overnight price fell from 25,950 to 850, right? 750 to 650. So 300 handles overnight. You can anticipate, since the buy limits never, or the TPs never were hit in this area at the previous day low, that shorts were going to cover going into New York. Okay, and I'm looking at that far right screen when I'm showing you guys this. And so 4 hour demand, H1 demand was set overnight. Really, really pretty price. And then, going into 6 into 7, you already had a shift in price delivery showing signs of strength inside that demand. which really set up New York for a super blast type of play. Now, when you go back and look at the 1 minute, now tomorrow, because I'm just looking for base hits, I really don't need to do anything crazy or just really, put too much size onto the trades going into the end of this week. Uh, One of the things you can see that I'll be doing going into tomorrow is just really focus on that 15 and 5. And so today, the other thing is you don't want to be fiddling around right at the open. If you're going to be trading live with us too tomorrow or any other day, another thing I would say is I'm going to be taking, my executions on 15-5 and setting up those edges, because 1 minute you can do it and there's nothing wrong with it, but I tend to find better setups with edge that I like, where I can let the market breathe and I can not have to force anything. Sometimes on a 15-5 a lot better than just looking at a 1, but I also still will execute on the 1. So if you go back to that New York price, or if you watch that opening price that we took today, one of the key things that happened was 825 to 830, the candle shifted in price delivery, so it just engulfed this candle here, showing signs of strength. And then on the 1 minute, 828 to 829, that's what you got, and then 829 to 830, and then boom, 1 minute candle, we were up almost 50 handles, and then in the second candle, we were already up almost 70, 80 handles. So super fast moves. So one thing I'd say is the market's not going to leave without you. Your edge is always going to present itself when it's time to take a trade. And so I was glad to see some of you guys actually found some long positions in those 25,866s and were able to rally those up to market open or 26,000 whole level. Because like I said, sometimes you just make mistakes, right? And you just have to work on your mistakes. So that's pretty much what I was seeing coming out the gate. Was, obviously our higher time frame bias played out. We talk about, like I said, playing your trade your plan. But one thing I would say as well was, the timing of everything today. A lot of the times the market likes to move in the first 15 minutes of the hour and the last 15 minutes of the hour. But then when I'm saying timing is like I like to be done trading by around 11:15 a.m. And if you look at around 11:15 a.m., which would have been here, this 5-minute candle, right? And we'll just go to the 5-minute here to look at this. But when you look at that actual candle, which would have been 11:15, where's that at? Right here, right? So this candle right here, this is 11:10, 11:15, right? 15 and 5-minute bodies were closing higher. So at this exact moment, if I hadn't found a buy position, like once we had closed here, right? So basically price comes up here like this, right? And try to kind of trick people into selling. I ended up selling some myself there, but I was able to cover, but still it's just not the best location when you're looking left. And so what they did was they closed this body here higher, and then they start setting demand in this area. And so instead of trying to find a short right here, I should have been looking for the buy, because if you look at the price right here as well, it's making the higher highs and higher lows. And then as well, like I said, the candle that we really like to focus on a 15 and on a 5-minute was being respected, right? And so there really wasn't a reason to go short unless price would have done something like this and then come back, right? Because it would have given us a new low, and then we could have framed up edge based off of a high to then play the mitigation to go lower again. That's the situation that we want. That's what we're looking for. So when we don't get that, that's why I'm going to go back to 15.5, especially if we're in a bullish market. A lot of times the 1 minute will be moving so fast that you're just going to miss. But I really like the position. Like I said, first 15 minutes of the hour, last 15 minutes of the hour, I really like the position on the 15 and 5 here when that 5-minute demand set and they swept this liquidity here at the last 15 minutes of 9, right? Because I'm looking for a 20 handle probability setups. Let me make sure it's looking smooth here. I'm looking for 20 handled probability setups. So they slipped the liquidity here, right? 945 to 950. And then I was looking at potential and area right here, right? That I thought was pretty clean. And then when you think from risk to entry, it would have been somewhere like in here, right? Like, so you're getting right in here, and then price closes higher. Let me show here. Move it over a little bit so it's not in our way here. So we're looking at something like this, and then price closed higher here. And so like my risk was, I was looking at something like this, like right in this area, and then to continue higher. I just didn't want to take it on a day like today for some reason. I don't know why. And it's very similar to Friday, right? Friday was super choppy though, and the way you would have had to like factor your way into a setup like that. But when you really think about it, right? 15-minute wick takes out the overnight liquidity, right? Dump candle, that's what we look for, and then that sign of strength. Now, a lot of people will play this position on Friday. After the 5-minute body closes higher, they'll start buying here. I have no idea where they'll put their risk in situations like that, and then they play just to get to here. That's not a bad setup, right? I'm not gonna say that that it is, but what I will say is like when you're under old lows and you're seeing price start to wick, and that 5-minute dump candle starting to happen, that's when you're starting to think about a couple things. One is when we take a 5-minute entry, we want to be below the 50% of the area of the candle, so this candle right here, and then potentially if we can get under old lows, that'd be great, right? And so that was Friday's position, but like I said, looking into today's, it's you just don't want to have to get FOMO, right? Sometimes you can get FOMO with a move too, but just don't forget you want to think in probabilities and you want to define edge. And so today, like I said, that's the biggest thing I could say from perspective wise and for the daily recap for me was just, I have tons of notes here I could show you guys. Like here, I'll show you guys kind of what it looks like here in the notes. Tons of notes, to get better. All right, so it looks just like this. All right, crazy notes, right? But at the end of the day, the only note that we actually need currently is going to be, like I said, plan your trade and trade your plan. So going into tomorrow, just some things that I'm looking for. I'm going to go ahead and start moving some things around here and getting rid of some old price action from yesterday. Now, one of the things is when we deliver specific levels, and we'll talk about this more in the future as well, like previous day highs, high of day, low of day, New York low, New York highs, etc., etc. Those are areas where we're going to anticipate price to react a specific way. So going into tomorrow, I'm going to show you guys kind of what to expect potentially for overnight, and then what we'll be looking forward to for tomorrow, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and move this to 1700 hours. So that's for our close. We still have a demand open. This New York price was yesterday's New York. This is yesterday's London. And then the low of day now becomes the previous day low. All right. And so we'll go ahead and mark that. Let me see this really quick here. Okay. Previous day low. All right. And then that previous day low would be obviously the week low. All right. So, or last week. This was last week's low. Sorry. So this is previous day low for yesterday. What I'm anticipating for the overnight is just like last night, right? If you look at last night's price, look what we did. We sold off 300 handles back into the area, right? Boom, 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 boom. Created demand and then floated back up for the New York and morning session. And so when I look at a higher time frame, I still have my eyes on this daily position, right? Like I still have my eyes on a target area of 26,100 level. And so until we deliver that, I'm essentially pretty bullish. But now think about this as well. Inside the daily, right? Let me make sure this is coming up clear here too. Inside this daily, this is supply, right? So like we could see price start to kind of fall over, but I wouldn't expect it to go much farther down than like 25,800, or if we go back to the 1 hour, inside that demand area, right? So we can also take a look at that 4 hour area. They could slip both of these, right? Because we do have a good amount of news this week, and it could go back lower into this candle. But just not trying to guess or anything like that. Just looking at the overnight so far, we're already down from 25,950, which is essentially we have the same open as the market open on today's open, which is pretty crazy. So if they reprint price the same way, I would definitely be looking for, if we're down 300 handles coming into tomorrow morning, I would definitely be looking for that specific price to do very similar to today, and just really take my time on that type of setup and frame it up. So Yeah, those are just some levels that I'm kind of looking at. This is previous day highs. Now it's going to be here. So this is going to move to here. We want to go ahead and mark Tuesday's daily open. All right. Now the cool thing about here is you can actually have scripts that will do this for you on TradingView, but on TopStep, obviously you can't do that. You can't add that type of indicator into their platform. So the main levels that I would say that I'm really going to be focused on is going to be obviously this whole level 25,800, 25,750, and then I'm going to add this level 25,700. 25,700 just for overnight plays, or if you're shorting down to specific levels or anything like that. That's kind of where my mind is going to be. I also want to bring up, let me see here if I have it, or I'll bring up ES in the morning. We can look at it actually right here. Let me check out those dailies, because we had just made all-time highs on ES, and so that's what makes me think, like, when I'm looking at you know, some of this price, that we still could, you know, make our way up on NQ, but we also could be at a point where we're getting ready to meet sell side liquidity, right? And so can't really, like I said, predict exactly what's going to happen overnight, but I can just start to eyeball areas that make sense to me, you know. So let's see here. So we have that daily open, we have the new previous day high added, right? We have the previous day low added. We have a demand level that we're looking for potentially tomorrow. And then let's take a look at a little bit higher time frame here. Oops, where's this one gonna go? Give me 1 second, guys. Daily 4 hour, 1 hour, 15. Okay. And so, like, looking at ES, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of go through that one as well, because we were looking for the same price as that on yesterday. So we'll move this to the 1700 hours. That's essentially the close, right? This candle I think is going to be very particular for tomorrow as well. Now, when it comes to ES, I think in quarters, right? So every 25 points and whole levels. So 25 or 69.50, 69.75 here would be a good level, and then 7,000 whole level is very interesting. So if they can, you know, do very similar price over here with NQ, right? And we'll go to 1 hour here. If they can push back down to that very same area, so we're looking at this. Just do this really quick. Similar area. I'm anticipating that if we're gonna be bullish, we're gonna hold support inside that type of area, right? And so same thing with ES. I mean, ES was a banger today as well. You see right here at 8 a.m. We'll go to the 15 minutes so we can kind of see the New York Open. But that New York Open was insane, right? So you have price was already closing higher, showing signs of strength as well. Short covering, right, is something that I really focus on. Is like think about this really quick, and we'll kind of finish up the call with this. Is just imagine if you were short on ES or NQ in that overnight, right? Let's say you shorted right in here at the 7,000 whole level. Well, the only way for you to make money is that you had buy limits sitting somewhere, or you came in and manually exited buys. And so that was what was beautiful about you know, looking at the 1 hour dump candle from the overnight, is that most people are taking their profits in a situation like this, and then we had that liquidity be drawn on from that previous overnight. And so with them not going lower here to go attack, you know, 69.40s or 69.25 quarter, that's what kind of showed me that that previous day high and that high of day was going to be attacked. And so that's why I said I don't want to like over analyze it or anything like that, but like if it was to come back down on these two tonight, that's what I would anticipate as a reaccumulation inside, like somewhere in this area, to then potentially go back for the previous day high, which would be now would be here. All right, so we'll mark those up here really quick as well, and then that'll pretty much be it for today until we come back until tomorrow. But typical type of day, previous day low, typical short covering type of day, right? And pretty beautiful price, to be honest. And so just can't really, hesitate on the plan. All right, 15.5 here. And so first 5 minute candle, like I said, 100 handle move. I mean, you can't, you're going to be forcing yourself into a trade like that. There's no matter what. But there was more opportunities in that 9:45 a.m. time, I feel like, that you could have taken, and this is where I said I'd need to be more patient, but could have taken those buy positions to go ahead and continue through that high of day and then that previous day high. So we'll see what we get for tomorrow, but I think I got the jitters out. And I was kind of jittery, I would say, coming back to YouTube and live. We're used to just trading with a small group. So now the other scenario, I will say this as well, is that if we do get, just kind of looking from a higher time frame perspective here on 4 hours. If we do get that push, I'm going to bring this back over. I'll just swing over here really quick to this window. So if we do get that push, right, when we're looking at like a daily back under the previous day low, then I would anticipate we may start making our way, if that makes sense, right? Like on the 4 hour here, if you're looking at 4 hour daily, that we could start making our way back into 25,550s, right? And start making our way maybe even down into those 450s to maybe even the 400s. It really just depends on how price, in my eyes, right, respects this supply candle, and if it just, if buyers are, good with that 26,000 whole level being delivered, and they start letting go of those buys, right? Because then sell orders definitely will fill pretty quickly. And then let me check dollar here really quick. So I'll go through dollar a little bit tomorrow morning. I'm not gonna go through it tonight. And then let's look at the news for tomorrow. So tomorrow's CPI is gonna be awesome. 7:30 news is gonna be legit. They're gonna be going crazy for that. And then we also have news, core PPI on Wednesday. Looks like some unemployment claims on Thursday, and it looks pretty light on Friday. So last thing I'll also say about price action today is that when there's no news on a Monday, or just in general, especially I'm gonna speak for NQ specifically, you're most likely gonna get an up day, right? Like that's something that I've personally learned, is that no news usually equals an up day, and it's not always. So you don't want to just like guess and just decide you're gonna take an up day in that situation. But yeah. And then soon I'll have my good friend Javante hopping on here and just kind of going over YM and let him kind of just show what he was looking at for the day, higher time frame perspective, some key levels, and then a position that he takes or doesn't take. So we'll be setting that up as well. So if you haven't joined the free Telegram, the OmniProfit Telegram, make sure and join that Telegram. I'm going to put that in the description links. And then be on the lookout here very soon for the Discord channel, where we're going to probably release that after we do some more live streaming here on YouTube, and get our schedule down for this 2026. So I don't think I have very much more other than that's what I'm expecting from a higher time frame perspective for overnight. But super excited to see what we get going into tomorrow, and that'll probably be it for me tonight. Now I want to see one other thing just really quick, because I'm not gonna go over QQQ either right now. So yeah, we went over what we want to see for tomorrow and what we think for overnight. So I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know if there's anything that could be better. I'm still working a little bit here on the sound. Once I move this mic to where it can actually just come like right here, that's when it's gonna be, I think, a lot better. And I'm just gonna have to get the piece that goes to my mic, because I have a standing mic right now, but I ended up putting this piece on right here so that it'll just kind of like come right up here to my mouth, so I don't have to really move. So appreciate you guys watching. Have a good rest of your night, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning.